Would everyone please stand? If you've been on a boat of any kind, such as a cruise ship, sailboat, naval vessel, canoe, anything that floats, including the inner tube, remain standing. Everyone else, please sit down. If you've stayed all night on a boat, remain standing. If you spent the night on a boat, remain standing. If you've spent more than a week on a boat, remain standing. Everyone else sit down. I love this. If you spent 9 months at sea, racing 27,000 miles around the world solo, via the Southern Ocean with a notorious storm in a vessel you built yourself, remain standing.
Nobody else?
I do not see the racial implications of being black, wanting to break into a sport which is predominantly a white man and rich man's game. Being black in South Africa during the apartheid era was a frightening period. But I wanted to sail so badly, I would not take a no. So I knew I had to go and design my own boats. I had to build my own boats. People looked at my boat and said, that thing will never cross an ocean. I was approaching hurricane-strength winds. I would hold my breath, and sometimes I couldn't hold my breath long enough. I fought to the very, very end. 2 days later, I saw Cape Horn. I couldn't believe that I'd actually just achieved it. I just sailed around the world.
I was a child with a dream. I was a boy who tried the dream. I have now become a man who has succeeded at the dream, and you are part of my success. I want to say thank you very much.
Good morning and welcome. Thank you for having me in Arkansas. It's great to be back in Little Rock. We all know people who carry baggage. I am not here to talk about baggage. I am here to talk about a treasure chest. Yes, a treasure chest. The only difference between baggage and a treasure chest is in the content. And for me, the choice of that content is driven by a philosophy. In my life, there are no barriers, there are only solutions. And hence, I have 3 advantages. Bear with me a moment. Advantage number 1. I was born black in apartheid South Africa. A country which said, based on the color of my skin, what hospital I could be born in, what school I could attend, almost down to what kind of job I could have. Apartheid was a harsh period in the history of South Africa. Advantage number 2. I was born in a working class family. My father was a commercial diver, but sadly became an alcoholic and could not hold down a job. My mother was a school teacher, and we know the contributions are immense, but the compensation is minuscule. So I grew up on the borderline of poverty. Advantage number 3. You see, I can walk today, but I don't take this for granted because I could not always walk. When the big guy upstairs was handing in hip sockets, I failed to pay attention and did not get the complete ball and socket joint in the hip, in the left hip. By the time I was 5 years of age, I'd gone through 3 surgeries, and that last surgery left me a body cast from my ankle to my chest. Arkansas members, Municipal League members, you hear me speak about 3 advantages. But you just heard me speak about prejudice, economic hardship, and physical disability. And you're shaking your heads and you're saying, this guy's crazy. Those are advantages. But just remember that philosophy. In my life, there are no barriers, there are only solutions. You and I have been dealt a hand of cards. We can't change that fact. But how we play that hand is totally up to us. I had the choice to say, poor me. But my mother would not allow me to say, poor me. We call today the present because this is the gift of life. And we have the choice with whatever we do with this hand of cards and how we play it. If I could overcome prejudice, if I could overcome physical disability, economic hardship, then whatever life will throw at me, I can find a way to overcome that too. That is how, through our attitude, our philosophy, we turn disadvantages into advantages. We choose whether we shall carry the baggage that weigh us down or the treasure chest of experience of life. But before I can tell you about the rest of my journey and my story, I have to tell you the story of the woman who was the most powerful person in my life. Not because she gave me my life, but because she gave me my values. I want to tell you about my mother, Neal Petersen. You see, my mother graduated from high school, not dissimilar to the high school year at Little Rock Central High School. And my mother was a brilliant student, and so she got a scholarship to the University of Cape Town. And there again, she continued to excel and was awarded a scholarship to any university in the United States. She chose the University of Syracuse in upstate New York. After she graduated from Syracuse, she returned to South Africa. Now, her graduation is significant. She was not only the first woman of color from South Africa to get a scholarship, she was one of the very few women in South Africa and one of the few women in the United States to attend a university. She graduated in 1948. And she went back to South Africa because she believed in education. She believed in making a difference, in serving her community, our country. And so she spoke about equality and equal rights and freedom of determination. But this made her a subversive in the eyes of the apartheid government. So they fired her from the university. And eventually, after multiple fights with the government, banning orders, she was reduced, or they thought reduced, to being a biology teacher at her alma mater, which became my alma mater, Livingston High School. But what the government did not realize, they put her in the most powerful position, the position of influencing young minds, shaping those minds. Now, my mom believed in education irrespective of race, color, creed, or sex. And my mom used to tutor students, as she also tutored me. Some of her students were brilliant. And then at a certain time of the year, around this time of the year, she would go to the University of Cape Town to fight for slots at the medical school because the slots were allocated based on color, and very few slots were given to people of color. Well, she would win that battle, and then she would go to the business community of obtaining scholarship money because our community was impoverished. Now, this cycle went on year after year for over 36 years that she was a teacher. I want to jump ahead. I became an international sportsman. I returned to South Africa. Mom meets me at the airport. I give her a big hug, and something was different. And I pushed her away, and I looked. And I realized that Mom had no breasts. I said, Mom, what happened? She said, well, some years back, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Now, I had heard stories, I'd questioned about it, but she always dodged the answers to us. Then she said, 2 years ago, the breast cancer metastasized, and the only option was a double mastectomy. And this was the first I was hearing of it. And I said, why was I not told? And she said, well, you had your own set of problems, and I don't want to burden you with mine. Let that be a clue about the strength of this woman. She thought fighting for her life would be a burden to her son. And I said, Mom, besides my sister, as I was not there for you, who was? And then she began to mention names that I recognized. So-and-so was an oncologist, ex-student. So-and-so was the anesthesiology, ex-student. So-and-so was director of nursing, former student. Every medical professional who was involved in Mom's medicine was a former student. They rallied in behind and provided the best health care that no amount of money could buy, because they were saving the life of their teacher. I had my mom because of her students and the healthcare system that we had in South Africa. Now, Mom did not become a teacher and tutor these students and help them get into medical school because someday she was going to need them. She became a teacher because she believed in our community. She believed in uplifting all people as best as possible. She just happened to be one recipient of multiple recipients, thousands of people in our community who benefited from those services. You are like my mother. You do not do this job over at AML. You do not choose to run for elections and fight the battles that you do because you want to feed your ego. You do not do it for the paycheck. You do it because you believe in your community. You believe in making a difference. And it is that belief of making a difference, where a rising tide shall float all ships, that our fabric of our core values really lie. We do not know whose lives we shall touch and how we shall impact people. But we have to believe in doing the right thing and working together. Mom opposed apartheid. She was a pacifist. She believed in non-violence, but she did not believe in being silent. And she believed in the utilization of knowledge and the application of that knowledge to make a difference, to bring people together. And today, I see where South Africa is from where it used to be. I also see how far it can go. And I know that we all can do better. But that doing better begins with each and one of us. In terms of the foundation we lay down, not just for ourselves, but the expectations that are held for others. This is my foundation and the beginning of my journey. And so my father had told me the great stories of his time at sea. My father had taught me to do some snorkeling. The only time I knew him sober was when we were in the water, and that was only for a while in the day. But I went through, at 18 months of age, I was discovered only to have one complete hip socket, and the first surgery took place. As I said, by the age of 5, I went through my third surgery that left me in a body cast to my chest, from my ankle to my chest. If I wanted to see a different view, a nurse or a doctor physically had to pick me up and shift me around. I lay in this hospital bed, the segregated hospital. And one day a doctor making his round of the ward stopped at my bedside and said, "Son, what are you interested in?" And because of my father's stories of the sea, I said, boats. I grew up in the coastal city of Cape Town, South Africa, surrounded by water. So it was natural to be drawn by the water. A few days later, that doctor showed up with an entire stack of sailing magazines. I was too young to read the words, but a picture will paint 1,000 words. I saw photographs of yachts gliding through the water, and I thought, maybe someday I could be on a boat. I saw pictures of turquoise waters lined by white sandy beaches and palm trees, the Caribbean, and I thought maybe someday I could experience a tropical island. What those photographs did was give me hope. And hope is the energy of change. When I look at countries in the Middle East or in Africa, where young people have lost hope, they have nothing to live for, then they feel that they can become a martyr by being a suicide bomber. And hence our entire world changes. If we want to win the war on terror, if we want to make a difference and make our cities and our homes and our environments safe, we have to restore that faith and hope of a better world, of a better existence for all of mankind. We can do these things. We can do it better. It's not about building more bombs and building more billion-dollar ships. It's about reaching the hearts and instilling back values, instilling back that we can work together and that we can overcome whatever the barriers are. We can find our true treasures in life. Hope, when I lay in the hospital bed, was that my world would not be always a hospital bed and a body cast. That out there was a big world that I could be a part of. So I hung on to the dream. I ended up
going through school, hobbling around on calipers and crutches. My school friends kicked balls and I could not play with them, and I was called a sissy and told to go and play on the sidelines, go hang out with the girls. Well, in that rejection, I went to the library. Our libraries were segregated. And I was interested in the sea. So I could not find the books in the library I was supposed to go to. The books on the sea were in the whites-only library across the railway line. So I hobbled over to that library and I stood in the aisle and I started reading these books in the aisle. And then one day I was busted. The librarian asked me, what am I doing here? And I said, well, I'm here because I want to read these books. And he said, well, you can check them out. You may take a book out and bring it back. She broke the rules. She allowed a kid who did not belong in that library to take out a book. And little by little, I began to work through the list of books on the sea that they had. At age 11, I read a book that was to change my life forever. Joshua Slocum, Sailing Alone Around the World. The story of a man who in the 1895, 1899 era had circumnavigated the world. He was from Massachusetts. He spoke about that place called Cape Horn, the southernmost cape of the universe. And I had found my calling. I knew I wanted to be a sailor. The dream was born. The hope had found sails to put the wind into. And I remember going to my dad. I said, hey, Dad, please, can we have a boat? Can we have a boat? But on the money my father was earning, he could not afford to buy me a boat. But my mother said, son, stay reading, stay dreaming. The application of knowledge truly will set you free. I said, well, Dad, as you can't buy me a boat, will you take me to the local yacht club? Rich and elitist. The only time someone from my community showed up in this yacht club was to wash dishes in the kitchen or fix broken gear, not to be an equal. But I went from boat to boat and said, oh, please, will you take me sailing? No. Oh, please, will you take me sailing? No. How about you? Will you take me sailing? Yes. I got out of the water, and guess what? I got seasick. But I read that some of the best sailors got seasick, but they overcame it by being involved. When I first showed up on those boats, I had no knowledge of the boats. But what I did have was passion and enthusiasm. When you have passion and enthusiasm, you can gain whatever knowledge you need to be a part of something bigger. As you look at your cities and your towns, ensure that the people who are coming onto these boards, the folks who are becoming the city elders, the leaders, have passion and enthusiasm for service. Because it is through service that we can move all ships forward. I loved every moment, and I knew I wanted to own a yacht. And when I said that to my school friends, what do you think they did? They laughed. They said, you're never going to have a boat. You're poor. You're working class. You're disabled. You're colored. You're black. You can't do this. So I got myself a jacket, a red sailing jacket, and I hung it where I could see it. And I said, someday, when I own a boat, I will wear this jacket as a symbol of that success. But till that day comes, each time somebody criticizes the dream, each time somebody says you can't do something, I will look at this jacket and know what sacrifices I have to make in order to have it. I challenge you to find your jacket. Each time you run for election for some office and you lose, hang on to the jacket, hang on to the vision, and never give up. This is not about what others think. This is what you believe you can accomplish in your heart. Now, I'd heard about people like Harry Mitchell. I'd read about these great solo sailing giants, and Harry Mitchell became one of my heroes. And I also knew that people who own yachts are wealthy. I was not born wealthy. I could not afford to go up and just acquire something because I had nothing with which to acquire. So I knew that I had to find a way to create my wealth to afford the jacket. And that began by diving in the yacht club and retrieving things people lost overboard at the dock, and charging a few dollars because my father had taught me to snorkel, saving that money, reinvesting that money in buying a wetsuit because this was cold water. And then that meant I could stay in the water longer, scrub hulls, earn more money, save more money to take scuba lessons, and ultimately my own equipment. Success happens incrementally, not because we want something, but because we are willing to take all the necessary steps to achieve it. I knew I needed a career, so I returned to public libraries to read about opportunities and options. And I came across a magazine about diving.
And this magazine spoke about how divers are part of a great team. I was learning teamwork through sailing. It spoke about how divers had traveled the world. I lived at a crossroad of where ships from all corners of the world passed through Cape Town. So I knew I'd found a calling. But it also spoke about the risks they took, how some divers lost their limbs or their lives. And I had to pause and ask myself a question. Am I suicidal? If you do something that you know possibly could kill you, is that not the definition of suicide? Yes. But when I looked at the money, I knew I could afford to eventually have the boat. But it's going to be with great risk. And I'm a believer in mitigating risk. And so for me, that choice was to find the best commercial diving school in the world, to get the best education with the best team, so I could be among the best of the divers to survive. That school was in Los Angeles, California, the other end of the planet from South Africa. My school friends said I was going nowhere but to the factories. I would like to have seen the expression when I got a postcard with Mickey Mouse on the front, and on the back I wrote, "I wish you were here too." You see, at age 17, I came to this country. I came here with $350 in my pocket. I came here on a one-way plane ticket in the days when a foreigner could travel on a one-way plane ticket. And I came here with the first month of tuition paid for from the 9-month program I was attending. But more important, I came here with an attitude that failure was not an option. When you are a stranger in a foreign land, you get one shot, and you have to maximize it. Too many of our young people in the country think, well, if this doesn't work, I can do that, and if that doesn't work, I can do that, or mommy or daddy will bail me out. Life does not work that way. We have to commit, and we have to stay the course, and take the high road, and even if it is the hard road, to do what we believe in our hearts. Find our passions, so that we can build upon those foundations. I graduated and became a diver and traveled the world. I tried to work in South Africa with immense experiences I had. They had a young emerging oil field. I could not get work because of the color of my skin, not because of my skills. The only job I could get was mining diamonds on the ocean floor, a job that many said was beneath my skills. AML, there are no jobs beneath any of us. When you have a dream, when you have a vision, you will do whatever it takes to realize that vision. I saved my money, invested that money, and I divided that investment earnings into the cost of the dream yacht, and realized I'd be about 85 years of age before I could afford the boat. So the plan was flawed, but we don't throw out the plan. We modify, we adapt, we change, we build the teams, the relationships, so that we can move forward. And so, instead of buying a boat, I returned to public libraries and read about how to design and build a boat. And I found somebody who had a yard and no customer, but had the skills and needed a customer. And we began the journey of building a boat. And people used to laugh. But eventually the time came, with blood, with sweat and tears. I launched my 38-foot yacht and put on my sailing jacket. And it was a proud moment when she floated. You see, I wanted to become the 4th South African to enter this O-Star yacht race made famous by Harry Mitchell. And so I called a press conference to announce my entry. And very quickly the media pointed out some harsh realities. They said that my 3 predecessors each had been a naval officer. I never went to the Navy. Each one was given the national yacht of the country. I built my own 38-foot boat. Each one was sponsored by the government. I was hunting for a sponsor. And each one was supported by the Sea Cadets. I looked behind me, and there was nobody. Front page of the sports section read, "Petersen sails floating coffin." And with that, all opportunities of sponsorship were dashed. Now, I had a choice. I could have said, look how far I have come. I have broken down the barriers of apartheid to be on a boat. I built my own boat, and at age 21, I was the proud owner of a boat, and even the rich kids in the country did not own a yacht at 21 that was paid for. I could say, look what I'd accomplished, and been complacent. But we don't achieve greatness by being complacent. We have to continue staying true to our dreams and to our visions and to where we can go. And I was not going to give up the dream of the All-Star Yacht Race, the solo race from England to America. And there were bigger dreams to follow. And so, the next choice was to bid my family goodbye and sail away. But I had a challenge. I had no money. Everything I had gone into the boat. There was a thing called GPS. I couldn't afford it. But I ended up buying some ancient technology and a book and bid my family goodbye. I bought a sextant. People like Magellan and Ernest Shackleton had used this device to find their ways across the ocean. And I bought a book, Celestial Navigation for Yachtsmen. I bid my family goodbye and set sail on the high seas. Don't ask me where I was for the first 7 to 10 days. I was lost. I was busy reading this book, trying to figure out how to use this device. AML, if you don't believe in yourself, thank you. If you don't believe in yourself, in that you can find the answers to the big questions, why should your constituents or anybody else believe in you? We have to look internal to be able to be of value externally. But life will always test you. Life will always challenge you. It will never be just straightforward plain sailing. So here I am on the high seas. I'm lonely. I want a ship to talk to. I'm scanning the horizon when the boom, which carries the mainsail, comes flopping across the deck like a golf club at a golf ball and splits open my forehead, and I can see the bone of my eyebrow as I'm gushing blood. I was in deep trouble. I had no money for a medical kit, nor did I have any money for a distress beacon to say this boat in this location is in trouble. All I thought I had on board my boat was a rusty needle and sailing twine. Could you stitch your forehead back together with a rusty needle and sailing twine and one eye swollen shut? Could you? Nah, nor could I. So I had a huge barrier. But I dug into the treasures of life, and I applied the knowledge. If you have a bleeding wound and you apply pressure to it, it will stop bleeding. If you can hold it together for long enough, it will coagulate and grow back together. Hold together, apply pressure. And with that, I came up with my solution. A clothes peg. I sailed 800 miles like this to go see the nearest doctor. The doctor said, son, your wound is fine, but you need psychiatry help. This is a symbol to me, a symbol of overcoming a barrier to finding a solution. Every single day, in your towns, across this great state of Arkansas, you face challenges, but you don't give up. You find the solutions with whatever you have to accomplish it. In South Africa, that translates into a boer maak 'n plan. In other words, a farmer always makes a plan. We have to be innovative. We have to be creative. We cannot just roll over and say, oh, too bad. The world does not stop. The world goes on. Will we be a part of it, and will we survive, or will we be crushed? Those are our choices. Now, I did not make England that year because of more damage to my boat. I ended up in Ireland. And for the first time, I found people who believed in me, who supported me, who encouraged me. And in that journey around Ireland, I met an Irish lass. Her name is Gwen. And I fell hopelessly in love. For a while, we were inseparable. But like all sailors, I've got to sail away and leave the woman I love behind. I sailed away from Ireland with the support of the Irish and the love of Gwen. And I arrived in England, and I was put on the same dock as my hero, Harry Mitchell, as we prepared for the 1992 All-Star Yacht Race. And when I saw Harry Mitchell on that dock for the first time, I was in awe. He was my hero. And I walked up to him and I stuck out my hand and said, Mr. Mitchell, I've come to meet you. I've come to greet you. I've come to race against you, and I've come to beat you. And from that day forward, we became firm friends. We were competitors, but we were friends. The race started. 27 days later, I crossed the finish line in Newport, Rhode Island, to become the 4th South African to finish the race. And Harry Mitchell was on the dock waiting to take my dock lines. I was not happy about that. So I did some analysis. Why did he beat me? Was it the size of his boat? He had a 40-footer, I had a 38-footer. No. What it was, he was in his mid-60s and I was 24. The things that he had forgotten, I still had to learn. There's a saying, a smart person learns from the mistakes. Have you heard that? Yes. Wrong. Wrong. I say a wise person finds a smart person because you don't have time to make all the mistakes. And that's why this conference is so important. That's why for 83 years you have met and done this conference. This is why the National League of Cities are important, because it is here where the smart men are. But it's also here where the wise people will gather and use the network of learning from each other so you do not have to reinvent the wheel. This organization offers tremendous opportunities to learn, to grow, to prosper. And its impact will be a ripple effect across your communities. Make sure you are in Charlotte. Make sure you attend the national meetings. Make sure that this organization here in Arkansas continues to grow. So Harry Mitchell challenged me. He challenged me to what is next, not to be complacent. And I said, Harry, 2 years from now is the next around the world yacht race. You've attempted this twice and did not make it, and I know you're going again. I'm going to meet you in September of '94. I'm not going to race against you around the world, and I'm going to beat you. And we shook hands and sailed away. I went to Ireland, back to Gwen. And I said, Gwen, I want to enter the longest race on the planet known to mankind. 27,000 miles solo around the world. We tried to raise the money for a new boat. We raised zero. We raised some money for a second-hand boat, but not enough to buy a second-hand boat. And there's nothing worse than making a promise and not being able to keep it. I was in trouble. I had 1 year to go to the start of the race and had no boat, or so I thought. We hauled the old boat out of the water to save money. We're living on the boat and I'm frustrated. 1 year to go. And so one morning I'm walking around the boat trying to figure this out. I'm disappointed. I'm sad. I'm even angry. Angry that why won't people rally in behind and build me a new boat? And then I had an idea. The minimum size requirement for the round the world yacht race was 40 foot. How big is my problem? How big? 2 feet. I looked at the old boat. I rushed out. I got plywood, fiberglass mat, epoxy resin, and we stretched the back of the boat. We created what's called a sugar scoop. We repainted my boat, and I showed up at the yacht race, around the world yacht race, in my new 40-footer. Where there's a will, there is truly a way. And that was not an unfunded mandate. That was desperation. You do whatever you've got to do to get to the start line. Because there are really 2 races. There's the race of planning and preparation, and there is the race of execution. And once you get to the start line, you are now focused on execution. And I don't think about 27,000 miles. I break it down into the legs. There are 4 legs. And all I have to do is start each leg. If I can start each leg, that means I could have finished the previous leg. So I focus on leg at a time. That first leg of the race was from Charleston, South Carolina to Cape Town, South Africa. And again, I got to race against Harry Mitchell. And when I got to South Africa, I beat Harry over the finish line. Harry came last, I came second last. It doesn't matter about where you come. All that matters is showing up. You can't win if you don't show up. You cannot win if your name is not on the ballot. You cannot serve if you are not on the ballot. I prepared the boat for the second leg. Gwen was there to help get me set off. That second leg was to Auckland, was to Sydney, Australia. And I dived deep into the Southern Ocean. And some 10, 12 days into the Southern Ocean, I get hit by a major storm. And in this major storm, my boat is surfing off these waves, and I turn it inside and outside down, called a knockdown. When I popped back upright, my mast was broken. For me, the race was over. Under what is called a jury rig, I limped back to South Africa. The South African media said, that floating coffin has almost killed you. You should have quit. You should never have gone out there. And so Gwen flies back from Australia back to South Africa. We find the money for a new mast. We prepare the boat, and I do some mathematics. The fleet was leaving Australia, heading for the Pacific Ocean and Cape Horn to Uruguay. I knew the distance. I know my daily average. I divide my daily average into that distance, and now I have a number of days. I overlay those number of days to the calendar, which tells me when I will arrive at Cape Horn. That puts me at the Horn around late April, late April, May month in 1994. That was the heart of winter, and Cape Horn would be besieged by hurricane-strength winds. I was not willing to endanger my life or my boat in those conditions. So I did the hardest thing. I retired from the race. We've got to know when to hold it and when to fold it. And folding at that moment was the prudent seamanship decision. Because if something went wrong, I would endanger somebody else's life, and we are not in the business of uncalculated risk. And so I said, Gwen, I want to sail the last leg from Uruguay to America in the Atlantic Ocean. Why don't you sail across the Atlantic with me and join me join me to Uruguay, and then you fly back to the United States whilst I sail the last leg. She agreed. We are partway across the Atlantic Ocean when we get devastating news. Some 2,000 miles off Cape Horn, a distress beacon had been activated. The Chileans sent out the search and rescue aircraft from near Cape Horn to the zone. They searched in the zone for about 45 to 50 minutes before the aircraft would have to return back to refuel. Another aircraft would fly out to continue the search, but again, it'd be hours to the search zone, only a few minutes to hunt. They were searching for my friend and hero, Harry Mitchell. Harry Mitchell perished at sea. Harry was 74 years of age when he died. But Harry left behind a powerful message for you and I. Live each and every day as if it is your last day, because someday you shall be right. We truly have to seize the moments. We get one shot at this life. Let us not squander it. Let us not waste our time with petty bickering. Let's not waste our time on ideologies that are not helping move our causes forward. Let's take the gifts and the skills we have and combine with the passions and live for the things that we truly, truly believe in. Those are the things worth dying for. And Harry gave up his life doing what he loved. So with a heavy heart, I sailed the last leg of the race in memory of my friend. And I decided I could not sit around for 3 years and do nothing till the next round of the world race. So I decided to enter the O-Star yacht race again. So the race from England to America. And so Gwen sails the boat across the Atlantic Ocean with me, prepares the boat, and then I'm racing across the North Atlantic solo. And as I come to the North Atlantic, I encounter major fog. And I'm pushing my boat flat out in this major fog. And 14 days, 13 days in this fog, middle of the Atlantic Ocean, I get hit by a Russian freighter. And my boat has a huge hole in it. And my boat is sinking. And US Coast Guard says, abandon the boat and climb onto the freighter. I cannot abandon this boat. This boat was my home. This thing was everything I own. I had no insurance. So instead of abandoning the boat in this fog, I got myself a pump, a huge pump. And every hour, I'd go to the front of the boat and I'd pump. I'd pump hundreds and hundreds of gallons of water out of the boat. It would take about 15 to 20 minutes. Then I'd go up on deck, trim the sails, and within the hour, I come back again and pump. Pump another 15 to 20 minutes. Go and get some sleep, come back and pump. Go and fix a meal, come back and pump. I spent pumping 15 minutes every hour, 24 times a day, and I did this for 15 days. How long did that for 15 days? It's hard work, but hard work pays off. I was able to get to the finish line before my boat sank, before the energy ran out. In 2008, our economy was hit by a Russian freighter, and you suffered huge economic challenges. You continue to face economic challenges as you're now trying to deal with collecting sales tax and bring internet tax, sales tax onto your books. We have to stay pumping. We have to stay focused. on doing what it takes to keep moving things forward. Because I survived, I found sponsorship to prepare for the 1998 race. Gwen again remained a part of it. And I'm pleased to say on that first leg, I was 14 days faster. Then the second leg. This time we went to Auckland, New Zealand. No big deal of what took place in Auckland. So Gwen meets me in Auckland to help prepare for the third leg. Ladies and gentlemen, AML, that third leg is daunting. Not only is it the longest leg of the race, it is the leg that will take us closest to the icebergs and around Cape Horn. For centuries, boats have attempted to round Cape Horn, and not every vessel gets around. Vessels have been lost at Cape Horn on those rocks. It was Harry Mitchell's dream to see Cape Horn. 2,000 miles shy of Cape Horn, he lost his life in severe conditions. Here, I am taking on Cape Horn, and it was daunting. When I was 300 miles from Cape Horn, I encountered another major storm. And in this major storm, I pulled all my sails down. I was surfing under what's called bear poles. And every few minutes, my boat would be turned on its side. Still a knockdown. Then the boat would pop back upright, and the bear pole circles the next way. We turn upside down again. Another knockdown. I went through 8 knockdowns in the first 4 hours of a storm that raged on for 12 more hours. And I was wondering, would this boat be a floating coffin? Or am I right to dream?
Yeah, that's a Roger, and especially with the barometers falling. Manoro, is your barometer falling as well, over?
On March 11th, 1999, 300 miles before Cape Horn, Neal's dream trip turns into a nightmare. A massive storm hits. Winds are as strong as a hurricane. The waves smother him as he rides out the storm in the cockpit. Tethered to the deck with a 2-foot safety harness, he pulls down all his sails and tries to steer his boat through the churning swells. Repeatedly, his boat is knocked over.
Unfortunately, this is the result of all the knockdowns. We've taken all over the place. Lockers broken. So it's been pretty tough.
2 days after surviving the storm, Neal sights Cape Horn. At last, he experiences the awe others wrote about in the books he read as a child. He feels immense joy. After all, more people have traveled into outer space than have sailed past this place alone.
Well, there she is. Horn and I. What a sight. And it has been absolutely great to be here. It's taken 17 years of dreaming. It's taken a lot of planning, a lot of preparation. It's taken the support of many, many people. My sponsors, my family, who supported Gwen. But we are here. I think of Harry Mitchell, who gave his life for this site. And a few minutes ago, I paid tribute to my friend Harry. You know, it's a very special place, this, the bottom of the world, the edge of the world. And to get here takes courage, perseverance, determination, dedication. It takes a dream. I'm 31 years of age, and I've lived my dream now. It's taken hard work, but it was worth it. I've risked my life through 77 knots wind storms, but it was worth it. I hope every young person has an opportunity to live their dream as I've now lived mine. To look at this magic piece of land.
Of all the billions and billions of people who have lived on this planet, some 8,000 people have climbed to the summit of Mount Everest. Some 750 people have traveled into outer space at vast billions and billions of dollars of cost per voyage. Of all the billions who have lived on the planet, less than 250 of us in the history of mankind have sailed solo around the world via the Southern Ocean and Cape Horn. In March of 1999, I became part of the most exclusive community of adventurers to exist on the planet. Not to prove my critics wrong, but to prove that I was right to dream, that I could go to the furthest corners of this planet in a boat some call the floating coffin, home built, and survive. When I arrived in Uruguay, I completed the circumnavigation of the world, but not the race. Gwen helped prepare the boat, and then she asked if the boat was ready to go to sea. When I said yes, she said, well, I'm leaving. And she said, well, I mean, are you leaving tomorrow after the start? I was a little bit confused. What do you mean you're leaving? And then she said to me, I'm leaving us. For 8 years we had been together, through numerous campaigns. I did not see this coming. I told her how much I loved her. It wasn't enough. I watched her walk down the dock, and I've never seen her since that day. I was devastated. I had to climb onto that boat, knowing she would never ever be at the finish line again. How I got through those weeks, I don't know. But eventually, there was the finish line. When I crossed the finish line, I had just raced 27,000 miles around the world, completed the longest race on the planet known to mankind. I'd been at sea collectively for 195 days, 16 hours in total isolation. I arrived at the dock, and the biggest spectator crowd to receive a finisher, to welcome somebody in, was waiting for me. And I looked at this young crowd, and I remembered 18 years earlier, I was once a kid at a dock watching the first of this race happen. 18 years I worked on this dream to turn it into reality. We all have big dreams, but we do not give them up when they get going, when they get tough. We work harder, smarter, tougher. But I could not race around the world alone. The night of the prize-giving party, the best night and the worst night, it was the best night because I received my trophy for this race. This race is so tough. People like Harry Mitchell died dreaming of holding that trophy. I've lost many friends out there sailing. But it was sad for two reasons. You see, there's no way I could be on that finish line, as there's no way I can be here in Little Rock, Arkansas with you today if Gwen had not been in my life. My success is a direct reflection of her contribution to helping me. Behind each and every one of us are the folks who make huge sacrifices on our behalf. They do not get the cameras, they do not get the attention, they do not get the recognition, but they make those sacrifices to help us to be successful. We must not forget who they are. I may be a solo sailor, but the people who helped me build the boat, the people who built my mast, my sails, my electronics, they were a part of the team, a part of the crew that helped get me around the world. There are times that you feel like solo sailors, but you are part of something bigger. Do not forget who those people are that help you be successful. And it was sad for a second reason. Now what do I do for the rest of my life from here? How do I top this? So I move into a cottage, and I'm working on writing my autobiography, Journey of Hope Merchant. Go back out there and date, and I come home from a date only to discover my cottage had burnt down. And I lost everything. I lost my trophies. I lost my photographs. The only few things to survive were those 2 books and my sextant. I was devastated. I'm driving back to the house, front page newspaper story about the fire, when the transmission in my car falls out. And I'm wondering, am I supposed to be ashore? My girlfriend leaves me, my house burns down, my car's a disaster now. Am I supposed to be ashore? I get a phone call. A stranger on the telephone who had just read about the fire in the newspaper. And she said, what can I do to help? And I said, how about a lift to the car dealer? That afternoon, 2 days after the fire, August the 7th, 1999, at 5 p.m., my life was changed forever. I lay eyes on this woman. I said, wow, that's my lift. She's cute. We went to the car dealer. We got another vehicle. I asked her, do you want to go to a movie? We went to the dollar cinema because that's all I could afford then. And then we went for a bite to eat. And 5 months after meeting her, I ended up marrying her. Unfortunately, Darling could not be with us in Arkansas here today because she has flown to our Charleston, South Carolina home. But 1 and 1 is not 2. 1 and 1 in the right environment, in the right circumstances, is the 11th power. Darlene has become that engine behind me of the 11th power. When you are in the right relationships, it's amazing what you can accomplish. Yes, I have a beautiful yacht out of the magazines now that we keep in the Caribbean, and I have a home in Dominican Republic in the mountains where I flew from yesterday to come and join you today. But it's not about what do you have. It's not about what you make. It's about what do you do. Where is your heart and what are the impact you're going to make on others? As my mother set an example for me, we have to set an example for all others. I became a US citizen and swore an alliance to this flag, to defend it, to defend the Constitution. We have work to do in America. We have work to do in our cities and our communities. Work in education, work in infrastructure. But only together, irrespective of what our differences are, irrespective of our culture, irrespective of our sex, we have to work together to make things happen. As I travel around the world, I discover people are all the same. We need fresh air, fresh clean air. We need clean water. We need shelter. We need love. But we need communication. We need tolerance. We need respect. We need understanding. And I truly believe that what we hold near and dear as our values, so do others in the world. We've got to combine those values and have the dialogue and restore hope to what is possible. If I could take a boat, a small boat that I built myself against the odds of the furthest corners of the world, what can't we do as we choose, whether we shall choose the treasures or choose the baggage? But when we believe that in life there are no barriers, there are only solutions, we can do anything. So I challenge you, please keep doing what you're doing, keep being civil, keep impacting lives, because we will have a better world, because all of us together. Thank you so much for having me in Little Rock. Thank you.